My name is Robert Russell. This is the transfer student welcome for Big Red Welcome for fall 2020. I want to take a couple minutes and introduce who I am and who my office is, who the panelists are, and then we'll get started on stuff. Participants, we cannot see you, we cannot hear you. We appreciate that you are here. The chat function, the Q&A function it's called, is live. We're going to save a little bit of time at the end if y'all have questions. There is no question too small. I cannot stress that enough. We have our fantastic panelists are here to help answer everything. And I think between all of us, we can probably get you an answer that you need for things. So feel free to start dropping in your questions whenever you want to. Carly, who also works in the CAST office, is going to be collecting those, and we'll talk about those at the end. Okay. All right. First things first. As I mentioned, my name is Robert. I am an academic success coach with the Center for Academic Success and Transition Office. We are also called CAST. And if you were here the last few minutes, you heard us just joking about casts or stage casts, but this is who we are. Primarily our role in the university, we are not affiliated with any college in the university. We are an academic office where students can come talk to us about anything academically they may need help with whatsoever. That can be as small as just needing to help figure out a strategy for when and where they should be studying every week. We call that a study plan. It could be something bigger. Let's really try to reevaluate how you're reading and how you're taking notes and how to do those things better, okay? There's a whole bunch of us in the office in quotes. There's a certain number of us coaches that are still doing in-person appointments, and there's a couple of us that are doing only virtual. So if you're on campus and you want that in-person connection, we have that option. The most important information I think to take from this page is our website, which is success.unl.edu. Once you click on that, it up at the top where it says programs, there's information on how to sign up for a coaching appointment if you're interested for that, or how to any of the other resources that we're going to be talking about today. Okay. One of the other things our office does every semester is we lead student success workshops. These are 50-minute workshops. They're absolutely free. This semester, they're going to be a blend of in-person, but we're also going to make them available via video after them as well too. Some of your classes that you have might count this as extra credit, so it can be beneficial to go to this type of thing for that alone. But our office has a great deal of combined knowledge of what your professors are looking for you and from you. We develop these workshops to be 50 minutes, you're in and you're out. As soon as you leave, you can start applying what you learned to your academics. We do not believe in busy work. We're not going to keep you there and be teaching you things that we don't think are valuable. We have everything from a time management at the beginning of the semester, reading strategies, note-taking, critical thinking, down to test prep, and then study skills and time management gets repeated again because that's such an important thing. This is all information, again, that's on our website, success.unl.edu. Last quick thing before I introduce our panelists. This is going to be a new push from our office. I forgot to mention, I'm also the transfer student coordinator in the CAST office. We are making a big push for this campaign. You're going to see this on flyers and on digital boards around campus. The idea is that we want to destigmatize what it means to be a transfer student. The fact of the matter is it doesn't really matter how you got here. You got here. Everyone's story is different. It really doesn't matter. Our office, in addition to some other stuff that we're going to talk about during the webinar with the panelists, we offer a matching program with transfer peer mentors, and our transfer peer mentors, Kara and Nadia, are on the panel today. They are meant to be guides to sort of help you get situated on campus, right? They each hold office hours each week where people can drop in and ask them questions. There's no question too small. They can help answer questions as far as where do I park? Where do I go for this? I don't know where this building is, to can we talk about what it looks like when you first came here? How did you adjust to the different coursework or the larger classrooms or whatever the problem is? Really, really good resource. We also offer some transfer-specific social events throughout the semester. We're still trying to figure out what those are going to look like this semester. We're definitely going to have something, though. To figure out and to be a part of what the social events are going to be, though, you need to be matched with a peer mentor. So if you follow this web address, success.unl.edu/programs/transfer, you'll see a little button that says match me with a peer mentor. You click that, you fill out a couple blanks, and you're good to go. That's it. Down in the bottom right, it says very clunkily, there's a graphic that says transfer your experience down there. This semester, we are starting a brand new email campaign, newsletter, that's the word I'm looking for, thank you. Newsletter called the Transfer Your Experience. You all should have received this email from me earlier this week. The idea of this is it's going to be a one semester, your first semester at UNL, you're going to be receiving this monthly newsletter. It's going to be FAQs, frequently asked questions specifically from transfer students, information that we often see transfer students need, program things, club, organization events, any sort of information we think is going to be really helpful to you in your first semester. There'll be another one coming in a few weeks in September, and then again in October, and again in November. So just be on the lookout for that. Okay. Now to introduce our panelists, again, I'm Robert Russell. I'm going to be moderating this thing. We have Tony Lazarovics, Associate Director for Academic Advising for College of Arts and Sciences. Did I say it right? Again?
Vitch, yep, I think you got it right.
Okay, I thought I did, but then I was tripping myself up, sorry. We have Nadia Williams, who is a current UNL student and transfer peer mentor, and Kara Schluter,
close.
So close, so close. Who is also a current UNL student and transfer peer mentor. Okay. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can sort of see everyone bigger. Cool. Okay. First things first. I would love to kind of go through and have each of you kind of tell us your story, how you ended up at UNL, where you came from, especially Nadia and Kara, how you decided to come to UNL, and kind of what happened when you first got here, that sort of stuff. Let's do it. Kara, you want to go first since you're already...
Yeah, I can go first. So I came from Southeast Community College I attended at the Lincoln campus and then also at Milford campus. I was able to take a few classes in Milford, and it was closer to where I lived because I decided to live at home for those first 2 years. It made a lot more sense to do my gen eds at SCC just because it was cheaper and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do yet. And going to a big university right off the bat just didn't appeal to me. And then also my mom actually works at the college, so I even got a bigger discount, which was great. But then I ended up deciding to come to UNL because it was the only school that was close enough to where I could still live at home. I was pretty connected to things at home. I continued to do 4-H with my animals, and so I just liked being around them and stuff. So UNL was close enough that I was still able to live at home and then commute. It wasn't too bad time-wise. And also, UNL was the only school that had the major that I was looking for. I was gonna go to be a registered dietitian. They used to have a 4-year degree for it. I don't remember what it was titled, but what happened is because I went to SEC my first 2 years, I ended up missing the opportunity to go for that 4-year degree. And so now they've turned it into a graduate program. But anyways, long story short, I still liked UNL when I came to visit, and they still had a great nutrition, exercise, health science program. And so that's kind of why I decided on this school compared to others.
All right, thank you. Nadia?
Hi, so I transferred from Millikan University in Decatur, Illinois, and it's like a little tiny little liberal arts school, so small that my high school was actually bigger. So My freshman year, I was a musical theater major, and then I took a year off of school. And in that year off, I worked professionally in theater. I'm a theater major. So I did a show at Nebraska Repertory Theater last spring. At the end of the run, they were like, "Hey, you want to go here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." So I chose UNL because I felt super comfortable with the faculty, and I have amazing peers. And the experience that I had with the faculty and students here was like polar opposite from the environment I was in at Millikan. And now I'm a double major in psychology, clinical science, and human services, and theater performance acting.
All right, thank you. Tony.
Yeah, so I am over in the College of Arts and Sciences. I've been at the university since 2008. I am not a transfer student myself, but interestingly, I have spent time, did my undergraduate at a small school up in Yankton, South Dakota called Mount Marty. And then I basically have been here ever since, pursued both my master's and PhD. And I was exposed to the world of transfer students when I started my master's program and was doing a graduate assistantship with Career Services, where we were trying to really understand what transfer students' perspectives were and understanding of a career services office. And it really highlighted the important need that we had at the time to do better communication and an outreach to transfer students. And subsequently, that led to a lot more research opportunities for me to kind of look at the transfer student experience. My dissertation for my PhD was all on the community college transfer students experience and transition. And so I've been kind of involved in that ever since I have graduated, and currently work with a national global organization on their subcommittee that focuses on transfer students. So I think when we use the word transfer champion, there are a number of people across this campus that are very much invested in making sure that transfer students have a great experience here. And we're always looking for ideas and ways we can best support students. But I'm Midwest, homegrown and raised, and enjoyed my time in Lincoln. Lincoln has a way of just, if you're not from here, it kind of sucks you in and you don't want to leave, because there's just a great community around Lincoln and the surrounding area, big enough that you can enjoy some of the great things that you get from a big city, but small enough yet that you can still appreciate that kind of small town life too, for people that come from that background.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm not from here, by way of Michigan. And one of the biggest surprises when I moved here was the fascination with chili and cinnamon rolls that Nebraska has, that I still don't, I like both those things. I still don't quite know how I feel about them together, but you know, it's a Nebraska thing, so it is what it is, right? Okay, so for Nadia and Kara, can you kind of talk about specifically transitioning to UNL classes? What were you surprised by? Classroom size, interactions with teachers, anything like that? Did you have expectations versus what really happened? And did you feel prepared?
You want me to start?
Sure.
Okay. So when I came to UNL, my first class, I remember it was a nutrition-based class, so I didn't think it would be super big. But I had over, I think, 120 kids in that class. It was in a big auditorium, and we needed what's called iClicker brief. I don't know, Nadia, if you've had to deal with that before, but it's basically a way of the teacher taking attendance, and they put questions on the PowerPoint, and then you put in your answer on either your phone, or you have like a little clicker thing that you can do. And that was really weird to me, because I didn't know what it was. And that morning I was rushing to the bookstore to buy one of these iClickers because the syllabus said we needed it. And so that was a little scary for me, just because I was like, oh, I'm going to be late for class, and it turned out that the professor was like, yeah, we're just going to start that, next week, not this week, which made it a little bit easier. But that was really weird, because at SEC, I had like 20 students in my class, and the teacher would just call out attendance, and then they would know like who you were and stuff. but yeah, so that was really weird. And then another weird thing that happened that same day is I had to go talk to the professor because my iClicker wasn't working. And there's people in front of me that were just going up and introducing themselves to the professor. And I just felt really awkward because I was like, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. You know, there's like 120 kids in this class, and there's some people that are doing that and some people that aren't. And I come from, you know, a college where my class is 20 and the teacher knows everybody, you know, just from calling out attendance. That was really weird. But after the first week, like I got used to it, and the class size didn't really bug me anymore. I kind of sat towards the front and didn't really realize how many people were actually in my class. But one expectation that I had coming into the university, I kind of expected that the course load was going to be like really hard and I wasn't going to be able to like keep good grades because through high school and then also like at SCC, it was always like a straight A student, you know, grades. It would stress me out if I got, you know, bad grades. And I was hearing people say, you know, like C's get degrees and stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, I know my personality and that is going to stress me out if that actually happens. And so I had an expectation coming in that the coursework was going to be super difficult. I wasn't going to, you know, do as well as I had hoped. And really that expectation was wrong. Just because, you know, I put in the work and it all went fine. I mean, yeah, it's maybe a little bit more coursework, but it really wasn't that difficult to adapt. And like I said, I came from SCC and we were actually on quarter systems there. And so I had like a semester work of like coursework in 10 weeks. And so coming from that, you know, it really wasn't that much different. And after, like I said, after the first week, I really kind of got used to everything and felt pretty good about being there and being, knowing that it was where I needed to be. So.
I would say, okay, my first semester, I had the like unique privilege of not taking any ACE courses. So I was only in theater classes and I was only in the Temple building and the Ross building, which are literally the same building with a wall separating them. And I didn't have to walk anywhere other than the Union. It was great. But then by the time second semester came around and we were like registering for classes, I kind of like forgot that ACEs were a thing. And I was like, oh yeah, gen eds, gotta do those too. So coming in, I didn't really have any large expectations after theater classes because like universally, theater courses typically cap at like 20 because it's all about like intimate experience. And so I was like, yeah, it's cool. But then like second semester in my psychology class, there's like 200 of us. And I was like, well, there's so many people in this room. I can't do this. And so I think that the overwhelming feeling kind of waited and hit like in February. And I was like, oh, this is what I was supposed to feel last semester. Cool. But I did definitely feel comfortable for a semester because I knew people when I was going into school. So like, I didn't feel like kind of alienated. And in terms of coursework, I'd say that, yeah, the last couple, like over the summer, I took 3 classes, and that was more challenging for me. So that's because I took chemistry online, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to take chemistry online. So I was like tweaking. I was like having a hard time, but I passed. So things are going great.
Congrats on passing. This is probably a good segue, and Tony, the next question's for you. Talking about class size, given COVID and things like that, can you kind of give an overview for people? I mean, if this is their first semester at UNL, I'm sure they've been getting a ton of emails, but kind of boots on the ground, like what is UNL doing to handle the COVID pandemic, and what should students be doing to prepare as they start classes in person next week?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's, I think, a fluid situation. So I think that's something to be mindful of. The reason that we've redone the semester schedule, first off, I think that's important, and a lot of institutions across the country did that. So we started a week early. Hopefully all of you have logged into your courses on campus at this point, looked at your syllabi, get an understanding of kind of what the expectation is. With a large institution like UNL, we do not have a universal approach to every class being offered in the same way. So that's where it's going to be important that you understand how is that class being structured. One tip I can tell you that you should become familiar with is the terms synchronous and asynchronous. You'll hear that often. And so basically, if you're hearing that your instructor is using the word synchronous, that means that you need to be in class at a specific time of day, whether that means you're Zooming in on a conference call or you're physically on campus in a room. Where asynchronous would mean that your coursework will be delivered in a way that you can look at it at any time of the day, as long as you're keeping up to date with that. So some instructors are using combinations of in-person, hybrid model. And so I think where you may go to class physically one day of the week and then you Zoom in the next day, and then there might be a small group discussion. So I think there's a lot of different scenarios for your class experience, and it's going to be important that you just kind of look at your syllabus and read through your notes, and in particular, check your Huskers email. I think this is one that a lot of times students, especially those that have been around for a while, we recently made it so that every student has a Huskers email, and that will be your preferred email. And so you want to make sure that you check that, because that is the default email for all of the university's correspondence. So I think that just gives a snapshot of what's going on with class. Now, I think the other thing that's important to realize is that, you know, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is a very fluid situation, and I think the university has taken a lot of steps to try to provide as safe of a campus environment as we can. Lots of stations for hand sanitizing. You have an opportunity to grab 2 masks. You can grab them at a number of locations, including the campus rec center, the student union, and we will expect that all students will be wearing masks when they're physically in classroom spaces and in buildings across campus. I heard a faculty member describe it as, we don't want to be like the other institutions. And by those institutions, I won't name them, but there are a number that have already had to go remote because of spikes in their local areas. And I think we all have that Cornhusker commitment. You've heard about, the chancellor sent an email out earlier. Our goal is to keep everybody safe. And I reiterated this to students yesterday at our College of Arts and Sciences kickoff. You probably would not have chose to come to UNL if you were thinking that you were going to just have an online education. There are other schools that do online all the time. That is not what UNL is about. Our goal is to have in-person interaction. And so I think that we all have to do our part, and that's been the message that's coming clear. And if we do our part and we can kind of keep our community safe, then we'll be able to continue with in-person and hybrid courses. But I would tell you that every instructor also has a backup plan should we get to a point where we're going to need to go back to the all online education. So hopefully that gives you a little sense of what's happening on campus. We do have our covid19.unl.edu website that has all the information posted, and it's being updated as new communication is coming out. But I feel very confident that we've got really good policies and procedures in place. The 2 masks, in case you're wondering what they look like, that you'll be able to get, look like that. So you got a red one, you got a black one, and but anyway, hopefully that answers the question.
Absolutely.
For you, Rob.
Absolutely. I was hoping that you're going to put both masks on at the same time, but
that would be like, I don't think that would be quite up to the N95 standard, okay, but maybe like an N45
gotcha.
standard. I don't know.
Getting there though, right? There you go.
I will say that, you know, having to wear masks, one of the things that I think we all recognize. In fact, I was listening to a lecture, and when you wear a mask, it makes communicating with people a little bit different, right? So I think what's important is you can still communicate, and so there's a physical distancing, maybe just as much as there is the social distancing, but it does change the way we communicate with others, but it shouldn't stop us from having really great conversations with people across campus.
And I'm somebody who leans into wild, erratic hand and arm gestures already. So this is perfect for me because that's needed now to get my point across. Thank you, Tony. The next question is for everyone. Maybe think about the answers in a best case scenario, but also right now, given COVID as well too. But how do you get involved? What sorts of opportunities are available to transfer students? And I'm actually going to combine one of the other questions as well. And so maybe for Nadia and Kara, is it easy to meet people on campus? Like how do transfer students broaden their social networks?
I would say to get involved on campus, I mean, it kind of depends on how busy you want to be. Like for myself, last year, I took advantage of the transfer peer mentor program, and that is how I really got involved. I met other transfer students at some of the social events that were held in the fall semester. And then I was also matched with a mentor, and she helped me kind of navigate campus and help me like settle in. But then I would also say like to connect with other people. Just if you're in like in-person classes, you know, use that time like when you're doing discussions and stuff to try and talk to other people and maybe, you know, set up study times if that's something that you would be interested in. If you're all online, it's a little bit harder to stay connected. But I would really encourage people to maybe join an RSO that you're interested in if it's for your major, or I know that we might be doing some online stuff for transfer students, so that's another great way to get involved. But yeah, so when you're on campus, you know, just try and talk to other people in your classes. That's a great way to make connections and a great way to make sure that you know, you're getting your coursework stuff done. And then, you know, if you are online, maybe try joining an RSO, or also try and just do some of the transfer events and just kind of play around with it, I guess. I would say that you don't want to get too involved if it's your first semester, just because it can be very overwhelming with the new like campus and stuff like that. But I would definitely recommend to at least, you know, look at joining one or two RSOs.
And to step in real quick, for those that don't know, an RSO is a registered student organization, basically another name for a club on UNL's campus. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'd say that like I made a couple of friends at new student enrollment, well, transfer student enrollment, and that was kind of fun, and like we still keep in contact. But I think that the most beneficial thing for me was like trying to find people outside of the theater school, so that like I didn't just know everyone in the Temple building or the Johnny Carson school. So I would reiterate like finding an RSO that you are interested in, and then also online classes, like feel free to scroll through the people like who are in your classes, the people section, scroll through it in a completely non-weird way, and maybe like slide into those DMs. Hey, I see that you're in my class, and I was wondering if you insert question here, and that could be good.
Yeah, the only thing I might add is that we often focus, I think, a lot of effort on connecting you to opportunities on campus, because we are pretty, you know, students are familiar with a lot of the options that exist across campus. You know, especially with transfer students, you're a little bit more limited in the amount of time that you have at UNL, right? So whether it's on campus, you might also be thinking about what is it within the community. Some of you might be non-traditional students, and so that traditional RSO group may not fit in the same way. You've got family commitments and so forth, or maybe you just have, you're working 30 hours a week, and so the timing doesn't work out as well. So, you know, I think there's a lot of other ways to also get involved in the broader Lincoln community that you can easily kind of get involved with at your own convenience, and utilize that as a way to grow and gain experience that you're able to use throughout the course of your life as well.
Excellent. And I do want to say real quick, I think historically, this is an area where we see that transfer students sometimes struggle. You know, like Tony was saying, you might be starting UNL and not living on campus. So you come to campus for your classes and you leave, or you have online classes and you aren't coming to campus at all right now, right? Try to get involved in some way. If you are coming to campus, try to stay on campus. It's hard to feel connected to campus if you're only coming here for an hour, 2 hours a day, then leaving. If you have an hour after class, go to the library, go to somewhere else on campus that's quiet, do some work for your class, use some of the resources. It seems small, and it is a small step, but it helps make you feel like you're a part of the larger community that way. And I think it helps for better buy-in as a student here. Okay. Tony, I got a question for you. Does being a transfer student impact access to faculty, academic advisors, or do you have any advice for how transfer students, how they should be interacting with their advisors? Is it anything different for them? And I want to combine two questions for you too. Do you have any advice for how students can find jobs on campus or get involved with professors for internships and stuff like that?
Yeah. I don't think that it's necessarily different than anybody that started here in terms of getting connected to your advisors and your faculty. I think the one benefit that I feel transfer students bring, and I would bet that Kara and Nadia would say this, you have a better understanding of what you want from life and where you want to go than maybe somebody who's coming directly in as a first-year student to UNL. You've made a conscious decision to transfer to UNL, not because you had to, but because you hopefully wanted to. And so I think that can help have some really powerful conversations with faculty, because you are more invested a lot of times in your educational experience, and you want to learn more than maybe somebody who's just been told, well, I got to go to college and therefore I'm going to college. So, I think one of the big things that is always important for transfer students early on in that first semester is just to make sure that you've laid out kind of a good kind of articulated plan between now and the time that you graduate or plan to graduate, so that we can make sure that you're building in all the coursework that you need to take here, that you're accounting for all the courses that you've taken at your previous institutions, and that they're applying the way they should be. I always tell transfer students, be the biggest advocates for yourself and making sure that the coursework is applying the way it should. If you've got a question as to why there's a requirement that doesn't appear to be met, but you think it has, the worst thing that somebody can do is tell you no. So ask those questions. But then as you have that conversation with your advisor, it's not just about credit review, and it's not just about planning classes. It's about the holistic experience, developing that relationship with another person. And if you do that, then you're going to make the most out of this experience that you have, whether it be 2 years or 3 years that you're here at UNL. I think with the faculty members, there's this misconception that faculty don't have enough time for students, and I think that could be farther from the truth, but it's going to take a little bit of effort on your end to make those connections. I think, Kara, you were mentioning you had classes at 20. I came from a very similar school when I went to a really small college. But the faculty, I think, for the most part, genuinely are interested in student success, and they want to connect you with opportunities. There's nothing better. Faculty love nothing more than talking about themselves. So if you were to go into their office hours and sit down, or invite them to coffee and learn more about their history, they'll write a whole book, and they'll talk to you about everything that they can kind of share with you. So you can absolutely get involved with those. You can get involved with research in your first semester. There's a wide range of ways to do so. And then finding jobs, we've got a great resource in Handshake, which is a national company, but they're tailored to each institution. So if you're looking for an on-campus job, you're looking for a local off-campus job, Handshake is really developed so that the people that are posting the jobs are specifically looking for UNL students. So it's not kind of a NebraskaHelpWanted.com or Craigslist or any of those kind of things. They really are vetted, and they want to make sure they're getting high quality UNL students.
Awesome, thank you. For everyone, how supportive are UNL staff and resources, or have they been for you? I guess also second point of that would be any particular resources you'd encourage transfer students to check out. Tony, I know you mentioned a couple of those things already, so you might be double dipping a little bit, but that's okay. But yeah, Nadia, do you want to start?
Yeah, my biggest push is going to be CAPS, Counseling and Psychological Services. They're incredibly supportive, and even like if they're very truthful. They're like, if we can't handle this, they're going to refer you to someone off campus who can, or who they think would be a better fit. And it's like included in your student fees, which is great. So that's awesome. The health center is also a thing. We also have a dentist, which I did not know. We have a dentist. Oral hygiene, guys. And then I think that for the most part, like, faculty is incredibly supportive. Even if they're not your advisor, you can always find a faculty member who like genuinely cares about you, and cares about your well-being. And so finding that support, especially when you're away from home, is incredibly important.
I want to add real quick, CAPS, you as a student at UNL, you get unlimited visits to CAPS, which is there's not a lot of universities that do that. It is a really, really great resource. Definitely check it out if you have questions about that. Okay. All right, Kara.
I'll have to agree with Nadia about faculty is very supportive. All of my classes, I've been blessed with just great professors that care about their job. They care about teaching you, and they're always there if you have any questions or concerns. I mean, don't be afraid to go and tell them, you know, I'm struggling, or, you know, I can't keep up with this coursework. Can you help me, like, try and, you know, do something to catch up or anything like that? Just don't be afraid to go up and talk to them, because a lot of them are very much willing to speak with you and get you a plan to get back to, you know, being caught up in the class. But one resource that I found really helpful at UNL was the libraries. So the libraries is great for research and like anything that has to do with writing papers. Like, use your librarians. They're there for you. They're there to help you with research. And then, like, if you're doing research online and you run into like restricted access on certain articles that you want, there's a place on the library's website where you can go and you can request that article. And almost always, it's usually free, that UNL can get it to you. Sometimes you have to pay. And if you don't want to pay for it, you can just mark that in the options, and then you just have to find a different article. But usually most of them are free. And then there's also a great citation tool on there where you can make bibliographies, and it'll kind of like do it for you if you have your articles in there. And then you just choose the format that you need, and it'll just do it right for you. It's super simple and saves you a lot of time if you're writing papers. So definitely check out the library website. It's a great resource. And yeah, it's just great for papers and stuff.
The one difference that I think often you can have, whether you're transferring from another four-year institution or you're transferring from a community college, is understanding that resources and services differ from institution to institution. Timelines are different. Everything, even though there may be very much similarities in terms of the services, they're just offered in different ways. UNL being a very large institution, and we're decentralized in a lot of the ways that we work, it's important to not get discouraged if somebody's making a referral. And I use the analogy a little bit of like, you probably wouldn't go to your medical doctor, since Nadia, you mentioned dentist. I'm not going to go to my medical doctor to have him work on my dental and my teeth, right? And Rob's probably not going to be able to give you much advice when it comes to financial aid, but we know who the financial aid people are. So I think it's important to recognize that being a large institution, everybody plays their own individual role. We're all part of the bigger picture. So we're going to have to, at some points, make referrals to somebody else. And it's not because we don't want to help you, but we want to make sure that you've got the best supportive answers and the right answers. So just be aware of that, I think, is another thing to be, because there's a lot of offices on campus, a lot of support structures.
Yeah, and we tell people in the CAST office, you know, people come to us to ask us questions. If we don't have the answer, we will 1,000% find out who has the answer for you and get back to you about that. If nothing else after this call, if you have questions, this webinar, excuse me, if you have questions about things, reach out to me at CAST. I can put you in touch with any of the panelists. If you have any other questions, I can put you in touch with anybody you need to if I can't answer those questions myself, okay? I think we're gonna do one more question and then see if we have any Q&A from the audience. And as a reminder for those watching, if you have any questions, big or small, feel free to drop them in the Q&A. Last question is just gonna be, what's one piece of advice you'd give to incoming transfer students? Kara, let's start with you.
Okay. I would say, I kind of already said this in the last question that I answered, but just don't be afraid to ask any questions. I can admit that when I first came to UNL, my first semester, which would have been last year, fall, I was a little nervous to ask questions because there's just so many like different things and so many different resources, and I didn't feel like I needed to ask questions because I was already, you know, 2 years into college and I knew what I was doing, but that was totally wrong. So just don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Because, you know, there's always somebody there that can help you, and then that'll make your transition that much smoother.
I'd say take your time. There's no rush in getting like everything done at once, and that's just going to lead to you being overwhelmed and stressed out. So like take your time, get acclimated with the school, get acclimated with your classmates and your professors, and like Kara said, don't be afraid to ask questions. Yeah, and take care of yourself. That's very important.
You know, I think oftentimes I like to live by quotes. In fact, this past year, one of my New Year's resolutions, one of the advisors gave us this jar of quotes. And so my New Year's resolution this year was to every day reflect on, post, and talk about a specific quote that I pulled out. But I just happen to have a quote that's sitting on my desk right now, and it says, "Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life that you've imagined." And that's by George Thoreau. But I think that to me, sometimes as we started the beginning of this conversation, Rob talked about don't see being a transfer as kind of the bad word or the curse word or whatever it was, the word that you said. Like, there is a lot of value and benefit to being a transfer student. There's a lot of cultural capital that you gain. You've got a lot more varied experiences than somebody who's only been at one place. And I think don't let that limit you. There are so many things that you can take advantage of, even in a shorter amount of time at our institution. So what is it that you want to accomplish while you're here? And how do we build that into the time that you are here to be as successful as possible? And again, never settle and find ways to always take advantage of that next opportunity, because you never know what doorway that's going to open for you to a great road that's going to lead us beyond graduation.
And real quick, I'll just add to your point, Tony. I think it's important for you all as transfer students to know. I think sometimes it can feel isolating. We get transfer students that come in that feel like they're the only transfer student on the campus. There are a lot of transfer students at UNL. It is a really, really big institution for people to transfer to. You're very much not alone. So back to Kara and Nadia talking about asking for help. We always will do our best to reach out to you, but at some point you're going to have to ask for help too, and just know that all of us and everyone you encounter at UNL is going to be more than happy to make sure they get you the answers. Okay. All right. Thank you, panelists. Fantastic. I don't think we have any questions. I'm going to give it just a couple more seconds to see if anybody else pops any in there. Oh, we might actually. All right. Okay. Kennedy says, where do I go to print things? / is there a limit on how many pages can be printed during a semester or during the school year? Great question. Who wants to answer this?
I can answer it. There are print stations set up all over campus. I think there's like 3 or 4 in the library, and then there's one in the union, but they're all over. And you use your in card, and then you have to, like, if I'm not mistaken, you have to like create an account and then like load like $5 on it, and you can get like a crap ton of prints. There's no limit to printing. The only like downfall is that during finals week and midterms, all the printers are out of paper and we can't put paper in ourselves. But it's definitely possible, and no, there's no limit.
Excellent, thank you. And it looks like, Tony, you sent over a link for printing services.
Yeah, this is this website is where you can go to set up that account so that you'll be able to utilize that wherever you're at on campus. And so, yeah, you're just using your end card. I believe, if I remember correctly, they used to, when you first set up your account, they load up kind of, it might be $5 or something free up front. And then after that, you upload money yourself. So black and white, it's 9 cents for a single page, 15 cents for front and back. And then colors, obviously, but a little more expensive. But
Excellent. Great question. Any others? Okay. Well, if any other, while I wrap up for a minute, if any other questions come through, please interrupt me. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I want to thank you all for being here. If you take nothing else away from this, I want you to realize that, one, you are students here. It doesn't really matter how you or anybody else gets here. You got here. You're a UNL student. That's all that matters. And that, two, that we are very much here to help. From our office, from the CAST office, at a minimum, I would recommend that you get matched up with one of our fantastic peer mentors, Nadia and Kara here. It's a great way to sort of transition into UNL life. They're fantastic people. They're fantastic students. They're going to give you a lot of really great advice. If nothing else, get matched up as a starting point, and everything else will sort of fall into place after that, okay? I also want to give one more plug to my office as an academic office. Again, there's a bunch of us academic success coaches. You don't have to meet with me. You can meet with any of us. And the narrative of asking for help is real. You know, previous to UNL, at smaller institutions and in high school especially, it can be easier for staff and teachers to sort of realize that somebody might need help and go out of their way to ask for it. UNL is a really, really big place. We all want to help, but the first step is you have to ask for it, right? Once you ask for help, you will get more help than you've ever possibly imagined. So if anything academic you're struggling with, you know, I want to learn how to take better notes. I want to have better study habits. I'm not sure how to get involved in an online class. Organization of my time for online classes. Schedule an appointment with one of us academic coaches and CAST, and we will get you set up for the semester, no problem. They're 30-minute appointments, they're one-on-one, and it's just you and one of us talking about whatever it is you want to talk about, okay? Excuse me. Okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up. Panelists, thank you again. Everyone in the audience, thank you, and hopefully we'll be seeing you around campus. Go Big Red. All right, see y'all.